Hi there everybody, it's meteorologist Brian Bennett with your tropical update for September 28th. As you may have heard, Invest 97L, the tropical wave out in the eastern Caribbean, was upgraded to Tropical Storm Matthew as of the 11 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Right now it's fairly well organized, moving over the Windward Islands with winds right around 60 miles per hour. It's going to continue moving westward and then take a turn to the northwest, whether it moves over eastern Cuba, impacts the Bahamas, has little impact on Florida, and goes to possibly impacting the Carolinas or the mid-Atlantic states, or takes a more northwesterly track over the western part of Cuba and perhaps even has an impact on the state of Florida. That is yet to be determined, and it's quite a ways off, but will be a storm that we're going to want to watch very closely over the next week and a half. When the Hurricane Reconnaissance aircraft flew into the storm earlier today, it did find strong enough winds and enough organization to go ahead and upgrade it to a tropical storm. Alright, we all agree the storm is going to move westward as a tropical storm over the next 2 days and then possibly become a hurricane and turn to the north. Again, does it turn more on a northeasterly track or more on a northwesterly track? That track will have a huge result on what happens with the weather in Florida based on how far northwest this storm system goes. I will say the terrain is going to have a big impact on this storm as well. The storm is so far south at a very southern latitude that it's really close to South America. Venezuela, here in the northern part of South America, has very mountainous terrain, and as air slides down over mountains, that air tends to dry out. So the storm's going to be pulling in some very dry air in the eastern Caribbean, which means it's not really going to strengthen very much over the next 2 days. But as it gets into the central Caribbean, it's more favorable for quick development and will most likely become a hurricane. If it takes that northeasterly track, it's going to move up over Jamaica, possibly causing quite a bit of damage, then over Cuba with a potential for mudslides and also quite a bit of damage to their sugarcane crop. And also Cuba has a very mountainous terrain as well, so the storm may be a hurricane, but it will probably not strengthen very much over Cuba because of the disruption from the mountainous terrain. But if it takes that easterly path, it'll then move over the Bahamas, which has very warm water. Also the Gulf Stream is right along the western Bahamas as well, and also very flat terrain. So the storm system will be allowed to strengthen into an even stronger hurricane, which is something that the east coast of Florida would need to watch out for very closely, and also the east coast of the United States as well as it continues to move off to the north. Now if the storm takes more of a northwesterly track into the western Caribbean, it's going to tap into some very warm water, and will have to be watched very closely for the west coast of Florida, as it could potentially be a hurricane as it makes its way into possibly Florida or even Alabama or even Mississippi. Here's a look at the current computer model runs, and you can see everybody agrees 2 days out it's going to remain a tropical storm and it's going to go due west. And then once you get south of Cuba, there is some disagreement. Is it going to move over eastern Cuba and over the Bahamas and have very little impact on Florida, or is it going to take more of a northwesterly track over western Cuba and potentially have a much larger impact on the state of Florida? If it takes that westerly impact, it's going to tap into some very warm water. In fact, the western Caribbean right now is right around 90 degrees. It's like bath water, some of the warmest water on earth right now. So that is fuel for a tropical system. So we're looking at a tropical system that will likely be stronger than what we had with Colin, and also a stronger system than Hermine. But the big question at this point will be exactly where will this storm system head. Kind of unlikely in October to see a storm system move into Texas or even Mexico. The upper level winds have changed quite a bit. So Cuba, Florida, Carolinas, mid-Atlantic states historically are more likely destinations for tropical systems during the month of October. Here's a look at the Gfs model. This pinkish color here is a high pressure system, and you can see Matthew down here just south of Hispaniola in about a day or two. And basically hurricanes are like pinball machines, giant pinball machines in the atmosphere. They go around areas of high pressure. So how quickly that high pressure erodes will determine how quickly the storm will turn to the north or if it doesn't erode very quickly at all, then it's going to move more westerly, more towards Florida, so something we'll have to watch very closely. Here's a GFS model. It thinks that that high pressure is going to erode fairly quickly, allowing the storm to move over eastern Cuba on Monday evening. It'll be east of Florida on Tuesday evening, having very little impact on Florida based on this current path here, other than, again, erosion and large surf on the east coast of Florida, and then continuing to ride north over warm water, becoming a strong hurricane, possibly having an impact on the Carolinas, or even the eastern part of the United States, or even as far north as Nova Scotia. So a storm is going to need to be watched for quite a few days, even over a week, as it continues to ride off to the west and eventually northwest. Here's a look at the winds from the GFS model, and you can see the storm system starting to ride north through parts of Cuba. And here we are on Tuesday evening. The white in the middle of the storm is representative of winds blowing over 92 knots, so that's over 100 mile/hour winds as the storm goes east of Florida, again having small impact on Florida if it takes this easterly track, which we're crossing our fingers it does, which would obviously bring it farther east and hopefully staying out to sea if we have any luck with the storm system at all. Either way, again, the storm system is looking to be one of our stronger hurricanes of the year. I will also say the GFS path has been shifting westward a little bit each and every day, so that is a bit concerning for the state of Florida. As it goes north, possibly having an impact on the Carolinas, mid-Atlantic states, and maybe even taking a turn more northwesterly. I hate to compare it to Sandy, but a westerly turn kind of like we had in October with Sandy. But again, I'm not comparing this storm by any means to Hurricane Sandy at this point. Alright, so here's the European computer model. It's actually one of my preferred models for tropical systems. It has a really good track record going back to Hermine. It did really well with that storm. It did better than the GFS did. Even going back to Hurricane Sandy, it actually predicted fairly accurately where that storm was going to head. So where is the current model run of the European having the storm go? It's actually starting to agree a little bit more with the GFS and taking it more on a easterly track than it had originally done. Yesterday's model run had it going right into Miami. This model run has it going up over eastern Cuba and over the western Bahamas. Here we are 10 days out, 10 days away from now. This is Friday, October 7th, and you can see the storm is just now starting to move over the Bahamas. At this point, this is as far as the model goes, so it could continue to ride more on a northwesterly track, impacting Florida, or it could go north into the Carolinas, or maybe even stay out to sea, but then making a turn back to the northwest. Something we'll have to continue to watch. It's a long way away. We're going to see the models change quite a bit between now and then, but bottom line is it's a storm that we need to watch over the next week and a half. Cross my fingers that it will be a storm for the fishes. Alright guys, nothing to worry about in the short term though. Hopefully you have a great Wednesday afternoon and coming weekend. No impact this weekend from this tropical system, so everybody should be able to get out and enjoy some of the weather that's moving in behind an approaching cool front. Alright guys, have a great and safe evening.